I quit this tarot deck study after only 3 sessions. And here's why. Also, look at these books. Hi, Sarah here. Yes, it has been a while. I've been procrastinating on making this video. According to my research, we started— oh my gosh, stop that. According to my research, I started this deck study on Friday, I almost said October, August 22nd. I thought we were going to use all these wonderful pages, but we only got this much. And that's okay. I still learned a lot of stuff. It was still a generally enjoyable experience. I'm going to share why I didn't click with the deck and some things I did like about the deck, and also some ideas for future group deck studies. I'm not a tarot reviewer or an academic or a teacher in any way. This is not an in-depth review. It's not like I have worked extensively with the deck. This is not a super deep dive. I feel like I've barely scratched the surface of what this deck has to offer and engaged with it, but the experiences that I've had with it so far, I'm just not clicking with it. People who like documentaries and art museums and history museums, that's cool. I am not one of those people. So, you know, that's the kind of person I am. But without further ado, let me share with you and babble to you about my experience and all the stuff with this deck. While we're talking about tarot and hobbies, I want to acknowledge that it is an incredible privilege that I have, to be able to just buy these tarot decks, to not have to worry about food, water, shelter. There are many people around the world right now, in Palestine, Congo, Sudan, all these other countries where their people are under siege. They're not able to just focus on their fun hobbies and sit in their quiet apartments like this. Buying and having all of these tarot decks is a luxury, not really a necessity. So if you are able to hold off on your next tarot deck purchase, consider donating that tarot deck money to people around the world, these families around the world who could really use that money a lot more than we need it right now. Free Palestine, free Congo, free Sudan, free everybody. All right. Now, about this deck. This is the Embodied Ecosystems Tarot Oracle deck by Rachel Amber. The other group deck study I had done was of the Gentle Tarot back in October last year, a year ago now. Those friends, those study buddies, and I were excited to do another deck study about something that is nature related again. The themes of this deck were really interesting to me. So as the title says, Embodied Ecosystems, this deck is about parallels between nature, the ecosystems out in nature, and the ecosystems in our bodies. So these are 2 of my favorite cards in this deck that really show this kind of concept. We have the 8 of Cups and the 9 of Cups. The body part here in the 8 of Cups is a bladder. Closure, release, purge. I found that pretty funny and also very ingenious. In the nature sense, the stringy things leading out from the bladder, they can actually be estuaries or little rivers leading out to the sea as well. Dumping their water or flowing their water out to the sea, finding your flow again, perhaps, returning to roots, returning to the bigger collective, anything like that. And then the 9 of Cups, here we have a kelp forest, and then also it's actually a mammary gland. There is like milk coming out of this mammary gland, feeding this heart, nourishing each other, giving what you have, feeling connected with others, perhaps feeling connected with your own heart too, because you're nourishing your own heart, your own soul. Kelp probably has some other symbolism. Let me see. I guess for kelp, it is just very bountiful, very voluminous. All this discussion about body parts and how they work, how they function, how they keep us alive, how they all synergize with each other, it brought me back to biology classes in high school. I remember it being one of my favorite subjects, even though the course load, the workload was a lot. It actually inspired me to go borrow some biology body part related books from the library. Ta-da! I'm doing another video where I'll go through each card and find its corresponding body part in these books here. I remembered like how fascinating the human body is. Reminds me of some of those like Magic School Bus episodes back in the day too. What also intrigued me about this deck was all of the renamings. So the numbers have been renamed, the courts, the suits have been renamed, even all of the majors have been renamed. So instead of the Fool, for example, we have the Seed. Instead of the Magician, we have Germinate. High Priestess is Intuit, and so on and so forth. The numbers and the suits have also been renamed. So the Ace, for example, is the Element. 4 is the Root. 6 is the Guidance. 7 is the Pursuit, and so on and so forth. I went over these number renamings in my last video, so I'll link that somewhere. I won't go over all of them again here. The suits have been renamed, for example, Fluidity for water or cups, Awareness for air or swords, Earth or pentacles or coins is stability, Wands or fire is transformation. And then the chords, we actually didn't even go over the chords as much in our deck study, but they have also been renamed. So Page, Knight, Queen, King, we have Vessel, Navigator, Teacher, and Conduit. And one more intriguing thing is the guidebook. The guidebook is very chunky. It also has full color art on all of the pages. You don't have to just search through the deck. You can flip through the guidebook to see which card you want to look into. And it also has pages with like collections of the card like so. So again, easy to see all of these cards at a glance instead of having to lay them out yourself. There's also an invitation, like an activity or a ritual, something related to the meaning of this card. I love when people draw from their own knowledge and experiences and expertise and tie in with the tarot cards. For example, the invitation for the Five of Cups is this: offer yourself some space to listen within to your vital organs. Notice the feeling, the direction, and wisdom that lives there. If you find it hard to listen to this subtlety, find a nearby creek or watch a video of one. Practice tuning into the little things. Sit with my emotions more instead of trying to react to them, especially if they are messy or conflicting or just difficult to sit with. Unfortunately, as I started to go deeper into the deck beyond a surface level, ooh, pretty, I found myself pretty disappointed. So the first point that I mentioned earlier was the parallels between our bodies and in nature, embodied ecosystems. I was really excited by some cards like this, with the bladder and the rivers and the mammary glands and the kelp forest, and there are some other cards that also have that like, wow, exciting nature looking thing. But then other cards didn't have that same amount of depth or connection. The Ace and the Two of Cups are just pairs of lips, for example. The guidebook mentions that the fluidity suit, the cups, the water, is associated with the circulatory and digestive systems. Also, they're both very big systems, so I'm kind of surprised they're all combined into this one suit. So with the bladder and the mammary glands and the intestines and the reproductive, I get that. But with the Ace and the Two, these pairs of lips, these mouths, that doesn't seem like a part of the circulatory and digestive. I mean, unless you're digesting like things you're eating, but these mouths are like exchanging air instead of food. And then the other cards are just hearts. The Seven of Cups is just 7 hearts connected. I didn't really see a link between that and nature. Maybe it's related to like mushrooms and that mycelium network. The Six of Cups, the guidance of fluidity, was just like the entire circulatory system. Feels like just a really big scope. Then to the swords or the air suit, here is the suit of awareness related to the respiratory and nervous systems. The 7 and the 8 have the cochlea, which is this part inside your ear canal. Some other cards also have lungs, like the 4 and the 5 of swords here, but then the rest of the cards just have brains. The 2 of swords is just the left brain, right brain, which to my understanding is a myth or really oversimplified. It's not like people are just simply predominantly left-brained or right-brained. The 6 of swords is 6 brains sprouting out of the ground. Again, I could see like mycelium network, kind of like the mushrooms, but I don't really see the body correlation here. And then the 9 and the 10 of swords are also just brains. So I was expecting more from respiratory and nervous systems, but it seems like they're just kind of repeated body parts, like the brains and the lungs and the cochlea twice for some reason. And then the earth suit, or the suit of stability, is the musculoskeletal and skin systems. I was expecting limbs and bones, maybe knees too, inner parts of our bones, skulls and things like that, but I really just see hands and feet and legs. The Ace, 2, 3 are just all hands. Again, with the 6, we have hands that are sprouting out of the ground and kind of connected, but I'm not seeing the body relation here. 7, we have some feet, so not hands. I guess the 4 also has feet. 4 and 7 have feet. Again, 8 is also hands sprouting out of the ground. And then 10 is just 10 hands. There's some pictures in these books that I saw about like the layers of skin, and skin is also really important to our bodies. So I was expecting some of that to be depicted here. And then lastly, the suit of transformation, which is fire or wands. Here is the ocular and energy systems. This one was the most disappointing suit for me. I just see eyeballs. There are so many eyes in this suit. Why are there so many eyes? Just like in the air suit, we have the cochlea twice, but no other parts of the ear. Here in the wand suit, in the fire suit, literally everything is just eyes. There are so many different parts of the eye itself, and also how our sense of sight like relates to the rest of our body. I should know. I have had eye exams every year. I have had glasses 5 ever. I have seen so many eye diagrams. when I see cards like this, it's not the anatomy or the system of the eye. And also, all of these other systems are like biological systems: musculoskeletal, skin, circulatory, digestive, respiratory, nervous, ocular. But then we have energy systems. And energy systems felt less academic or maybe less scientific in contrast to all of these other systems that were named. Now, the 8s through 10s themselves are the main cards that depict body parts and systems out in nature. The court cards, it's more like full bodies, kind of superimposed or relating to nature. And the majors are also just different animals rather than human body parts. So the contrast between all of these human anatomy cards and these animal cards just chilling out in nature was kind of disjointing as well. I now realize there are these 3 important things that have to work together well for me to enjoy a tarot deck. It is the titles or the renamings or the keywords, then the art, then the guidebook. So yes, all of the numbers and suits are renamed. It is a pretty cool novel thing for all of the numbers and the suits to have like these fancy words, but I quickly realized it is a mouthful to say every time. 5 of Cups is 3 syllables. Potential of fluidity is 8 syllables, and when you're laying out 5 cards on the table, even 3 cards on a table, saying these long ass names every single time is a lot of work. It's a lot of mouth work. I remembered that I don't like tarot decks with keywords or extra phrases. I only like having the title itself. Sometimes these titles can feel a bit limiting. They just don't always line up with my personal interpretations or where I want to go with the tarot meaning. Like the Pursuit is the 7, and the Pursuit of Stability as the 7 of Pentacles. Sometimes these titles just start feeling very abstract and it's just hard to connect with them. Here, Pursuit of Fluidity. It's like I kind of get it, but I have to really think about it. It's just not as like intuitive to me as like 7 of Cups is. I also understand maybe if I worked with the deck more and got more familiar with it, maybe I would. But the fact is, I don't feel interested or connected enough to want to keep working with it. 6 of Wands is guidance of transformation. I'm having trouble connecting that to the typical 6 of Wands, 6 of Fire meanings that I kind of have for myself. 3 is the synergy. For example, synergy of fluidity. Again, fluidity is a very abstract word, but also synergy for the 3. I don't always read it as synergy. Sometimes it's like expansion or growing outward. This is the thing with keywords and phrases. If you have a few keywords that don't vibe with you, maybe you can overlook them, but then when a lot of the keywords don't vibe with you, shrug, I guess. So if the titles and the renamings aren't making sense, how about looking at the art? So if I look at the art, do I get anything? The answer for a lot of these cards was, I'm struggling. For example, with the 7 of Air, the cochlea here, all of this air being funneled through. Not really sure how that correlates with the 7 of Swords. I guess it could be like sensitivity, being sensitive, being discerning. The Wand suit, this really stumped me. So the 6 of Wands, 6 of Fire, is the guidance of transformation. We have this big eyeball, and there's also 6 eyes around the edge with their eyelashes, and a nature scene in the middle. Really not sure at first glance or on second or third glance how to relate this to my own meanings of the 6 of Wands. The 8 of Wands, this one was very perplexing. I can see that the 8 eyes here, they are kind of like the moon phases. So the eyes are maybe turned in different directions and a different open closedness. But again, looking at this, I have no idea what meaning to make of this. The 8 of Pentacles, dynamics of stability, all these hands growing out of the ground. The 10 of Pentacles, realization of stability. Why are all of these hands circling the hand on a stump? So many of these cards were just perplexing to me, and that really frustrated me. So if the titles aren't making sense, and then the art isn't making sense, the guidebook is like my last resort. The only reason I know that this card is the bladder is because Jo of Pointed Logic Tarot pointed it out, because she knows body parts. But the guidebook does not mention anything about a bladder. I don't think the word bladder is in here at all. It does say estuaries, but it doesn't actually say bladder. This lack of very straightforward explain like I'm 5 explanation in the guidebook is what I was sorely missing. I know that creating a tarot deck and writing a guidebook is a lot of work. This is 78 cards or more and a crap ton of writing, but still, the bare information that I'm really looking for, explanation of what this body part is and what scene I'm looking at, what meaning I'm supposed to make from things like this is what I want to see in the guidebook. Reading more about the author's intentions, their expertise, their intentions with this deck and with these cards, I love reading that stuff. I think it's so fascinating to know how all of our brains operate differently. Like when I finish watching a movie, one of the first things I like to do is just go on the internet and look for discussions about it, what people liked, didn't like, how people interpret these scenes, and they add interpretations that I may not have noticed or thought of. I know some people find these scene descriptions a bit repetitive in guidebooks. Like, for example, there is this woman sitting on a throne. Like, yeah, we know that. But the thing is, I don't know what you know. The author may know that this is a bladder, but I don't know that. With these 7 hearts, is it supposed to be a body part reference that I'm not getting? These 8 eyes, right? Why are these representing the moon phases? This kind of personal touch, personal explanations of your intentions when you're creating a guidebook, this is what I want to hear about. Even if it doesn't align with mine, I want to understand what your thought process is because I don't speak the same language as you. We don't have the same spiritual backgrounds. I don't know diddly squat about nature or body parts. It has all of this text, but there's no little footnote or clear paragraph that says, this is a bladder. Bladders represent releasing and purging. Then besides it not being straightforward, the writing also just perplexes me sometimes. So here is the 8 of Wands. Again, these 8 eyeballs rotating around like the moon phases. This is one of the paragraphs here. When we can envision the destination, only through an opening and shifting perspective can we find and maintain our direction. Even when we can envision the destination, there is still a periphery we need to maintain in order to remain. Your direction only exists from the vantage point of your center. Rotate around but do not reach. When you use your senses before you can actualize your visions, your pace will naturally match the path. I don't know what that means. I don't know where to go from here. I don't know where to start trying to interpret this. Even when we can envision the destination, I'm envisioning the end goal. There's still a periphery we need to maintain in order to remain. Periphery, side, looking, remain where? Remain where? Your direction only exists from the vantage point of your center. I don't know what that means. I'm not an astrology person. I don't believe in astrology. I think a lot of astrology or horoscopes or tarot readings can have this kind of language where it can just feel very generic. Sorry. Saying a lot of fancy sounding stuff, but look at it deeper, trying to like actually create a visual image in my head. I'm like, what does this mean? In contrast, here is another guidebook that I really enjoyed, the Magic Pantry Tarot. So each card in the Magic Pantry Tarot is correlated with a food. And then in the guidebook, they mention what food it is, and then different prompts that relate to different interpretations of each card. And it's formatted so clearly too, in bullet points, 1, 2, 3, 4, very easy to see, very easy to skim through. For example, 7 of Wands, ginger. Ginger is a rhizome that is used in cooking all around the world to add a kick of delicious spice. What personal spice do you add to conversations and social gatherings? So it's relating ginger as a spice, and then what spice do you add as a 7 of Wands? Another idea is spicy flavors in nature evolved to protect the plants from being eaten. So the 7 of Wands can appear when there's a need to stand up for yourself against criticism or peer pressure. So another cool tie-in, spicy protects you. So in our human lives, being spicy can actually protect us. So that's an example of the prompts and how they are specifically tied in and explained very clearly to the food and the tarot card. I know every creator's thought process and authorness, the way you write is different. I'm just saying this kind of straightforward explanation of what exactly I'm seeing in these cards, I really wanted to know. So overall, did not build a personal connection like I thought I would, but it was just a fun experience anyway, because it connected me to topics that I forgot that I enjoyed, that I wanted to revisit. It got me interacting with friends and not being depressed. I'm not in a rush to do another group deck study. I'm chilling for a bit. If or when I do another one, I'll do some things differently. One, I think I'll play with and explore the deck more on my own before jumping into a deck study. For me, going into this deck without any knowledge or any individual play and fun, casual time with it, it made me feel really pressured to try to get deep into it on the first session. So having this kind of free form, like explore at my own pace for months before doing a deck study with it, I think that is the better approach there. And then I would also just start our deck study with something that is actually interesting to us. Last year, with a Gentle Tarot deck study, we were all new to each other. But this year, we have the friendship, the familiarity, the camaraderie. So we don't have to try to get everyone on the same page and like start with the overview and like do a tarot introduction. We all freaking know tarot. We all have multiple tarot decks. We all watch TarotTube. We know what's up. Forget the overview. Let's just start with like, what card jumps out to you? Wow, bladder. I harp on this card a lot. What card jumps out to you? This eye, the element of transformation. Just doing more fun, playful, freeform stuff like that on the first day. That will probably sustain our deck study more instead of feeling like I'm just mustering up interest, forcing my brain cells to be here instead of finding something that they naturally want to be here for, you know? So yeah, that's my thoughts on the Embodied Ecosystems Tarot Oracle deck. Leave whatever you want in the comments or just move on to the next video. All right, that's all I got for today. Thanks for watching. Bye.